James Long joins us from Seattle, Washington. He is a professor of political science and co-founder of the Political Economy Forum at the University of Washington. Good to have you with us. So how serious is this for Donald Trump?
I think it's very serious. This is his third indictment, but it's the first that relates to his time in office, specifically between the election that he lost in 2020 and then, of course, the riot on January 6th and then Biden's inauguration when Trump left office. But I think the conspiracy charges and the obstruction charges are very, very serious and really go to the heart of what is American democracy and what is the good of an election if the person who lost that election illegally tries to overthrow the results of that election simply to stay in power.
Given the deep divisions in the U.S. right now, does America need this trial?
Well, I think the rule of law always demands of those citizens who live in that country and the prosecutors and judges and everyone else that the rule of law is maintained and upheld regardless of who may be investigated without fear or favor. So I think for those reasons, it's important for the rule of law. But I do anticipate that, however this trial plays out, it could further some polarization politically in the electorate. It's already very, very polarized. So it's hard to imagine how much worse it could get. But I do think probably Trump supporters and his diehard MAGA crowd, as well as many Republicans, will probably dismiss or not listen to any of the evidence brought to trial. And, perhaps a lot of Democrats will just assume that Trump is guilty and not really listen either on their side.
Well, he is, of course, leading very convincingly in the polls right now to be the Republican nominee, and he's shown no indication of stepping out of the race because he can do that. Could we see a scenario where he is convicted and goes to jail, and he still becomes the Republican nominee?
Yeah. So U.S. law and the precedent here is very interesting in how this would work out. So a person can technically run for president as a candidate under indictment and even from jail. But currently, the Department of Justice has decided that a sitting president, so somebody who's taken office, cannot do so under criminal indictment or from jail. So you can imagine a scenario where candidate Trump is actually under indictment in jail, prosecutions are going on. But once he is inaugurated, all of that would basically be put on pause until he's no longer president.
I want to ask you about the position that his lawyers have taken, and I don't know if you heard the clip we played just before we came to you, in which they say that President Trump, at the time that he was president, had every right to question the vote and to go through all of the channels in being able to act on it. What do you say to that?
Well, the indictment itself, I'm not really sure the position of his lawyers, other than I think they're trying to score some political points and hope that they translate into confusing a lot of the legal issues. But the indictment itself says that Donald Trump, of course, does have First Amendment speech protection, and that he can argue that the election and make statements that the election was not free and fair. That's not what he's being charged with. The charges are then how that speech then related to the allegations around obstruction and conspiracy. And so in that sense, the speech is not in and of itself what the legal problem is. It's how that speech then relates to his actual actions, not just what he was saying. And in that respect, I think I would encourage Trump's lawyers and anyone who hasn't already to actually read the indictment, which I think goes fairly in depth in sort of putting aside the issue of First Amendment protections around free speech, and rather focuses on how a lot of the things that Donald Trump was saying are indications then of why he was committing the actions that he was committing in terms of trying to overthrow the election.
Good to talk to you. James Long, thanks for being with us.